When I came to London, I was so shocked because I thought it was so dirty and so broken down and so much smoke. I had to remember that we were invited to come and rebuild Britain.
Yeah, the smog, the coldness, the darkness, you know.
It was a very hostile environment.
In the wake of the Second World War, Britain recruited 500,000 Commonwealth subjects to replenish its workforce and rebuild its cities. They are the Windrush generation, named after SS Empire Windrush, the ship harbouring early Caribbean arrivals on the 22nd of June, 1948.
Today it's about people like my mother and father who came to this country in the 1950s, but they came to help the mother country, and they were always proud to help, to work. And this day is about that generation, what they gave, what they contributed, and how they should be honoured today.
Today is dedicated to the Windrush generation, but it took a scandal to achieve that. In 2018, a Guardian reporter revealed after decades of living here, the Windrush generation were being denied their rights, detained, and even deported as illegal immigrants.
To begin with, I thought it was a series of very bad errors by the Home Office. But I think as I went on reporting the issues associated, it became more and more clear that this was a problem that had its roots in decades of ever-tightening immigration and citizenship legislation.
This culminated in 2012 when Home Secretary Theresa May introduced a hostile environment.
Scotland wants no part of Theresa May's despicable hostile environment.
This was designed to force out undocumented migrants, though many of the Windrush generation had never needed any documents.
It was almost as if, because your skin colour was black, you almost had to prove that you were entitled to be here.
And they're aiming to remove a certain number of individuals in any given month.
The Windrush Scandal didn't come out of a clear blue sky. The Home Office has some really systemic problems in the way that it deals with its clients. But at least the Windrush Scandal has made more people aware of that.
So what have we learned from the Windrush Scandal?
In terms of Windrush, there have been some really, really positive changes. 12,000 people who didn't have documentation have now got documentation. £500,000 has been given by the government to allow groups all over the country to celebrate this day, which marks the kind of symbolic beginning of Britain as a multicultural country.
We went to the City of London. We expected a palace, what we got was a dungeon.
One of the things that became really obvious was that there was no great enthusiasm amongst the British population for the way that the Home Office was treating all of those affected. And that began to lead to a question about how we want our immigration legislation to work more broadly.
After the scandal, the hostile environment was rebranded the compliant environment, but none of its legislation has actually been repealed.
The government has learned absolutely nothing from the Windrush scandal.
Which begs the question, what have we not learned?
First of all, there's the question of compensation. The majority of people that applied for compensation still haven't got it.
While 60 people have received compensation, countless others are in arrears.
The point is that they really urgently need the compensation, not just to kind of address a sort of a moral wrong done against them, but because they're in arrears and getting eviction notices.
Windrush isn't an isolated incident. A review into its causes, published in March, found ministers were ignorant and thoughtless about race and colonial history.
The Windrush Lessons Learned Review made a number of recommendations. One was for an immigration commissioner, in order to have someone very close to the top of government who would be concerned with the welfare of migrants. And that appointment has not been made.
It's true that Priti Patel, the Home Secretary, hasn't committed to adopt all of those 30 recommendations.
Lives were ruined and families were torn apart.
When we see the government calling for a new inquiry into race and inequality, there has been some frustration amongst those affected by the scandal, because they say, well, this very, very detailed report has already been published and the findings of that haven't yet been taken on board.
The ongoing hostile environment legislation still affects many within the broad term illegal immigrant. It includes people seeking asylum, people who arrived legally but lost their status when a marriage collapsed or funds ran dry. That legislation remains in place. But today, with government support, we celebrate the enormous cultural and economic contributions of immigrants to the UK, their home.